Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 448. Amon's Possible Origins. Amon. Klein said the word in his mind. He had originally thought that the blasphemer who appeared in the forsaken land of God's city of silver was a descendant of an ancient family like Amon. Through inheriting the legacy of his ancestors, step by step, he stepped into the demigod ranks. To his surprise, it was very possible that that particular person could very well have lived for more than 2,000 years and was a member of the Amon family when it was at the peak of its strength. An old antique. Why would he, for no good reason, build a tomb for himself? Did he fake his death to get out of a situation, or is there another reason, such as leaving traces so as to have time fixed onto his body? He was able to live from the 4th epoch to the 5th epoch, all because he was siphoning the lives of others? I originally guessed that he's a sequence 3 or sequence 2. Based on what I've seen today, it's not impossible for him to be a sequence 1. After all, long periods of time would eventually bring about an intrinsic improvement. Klein switched back and forth between puzzlement and speculation. His thoughts were like boiling water, gurgling nonstop. The Horamic doll tugged at his throat and accidentally pulled off a piece of skin, revealing the complicated mechanical structure within. His voice came out from that spot and brought with it the impression of leaking air. "Search the corpses on the ground. Don't come any closer." "Yes, Your Grace." A Cancer and Company heaved a clear sigh of relief. The corpses on the ground had long since produced their Beyonder characteristics. Some of them had even combined with certain parts of the body to form a terrifying mystical item. In addition, the dead carried all sorts of items on them. The machinery hive mind sure has reaped quite a harvest this time. Together with the spectre portrait frame and the human skin shadow characteristic, this completely makes up for the crazy expenses of the cleanup. A huge investment for a high return. Klein's eyes lingered on the ground for quite a while. He inhaled, tore his gaze away, and followed Horamic, who didn't carry a lantern, to the wall on the other side of the coffin. At this moment, the magic mirror, Erodes, brightened up the scene, allowing the things in front of him to be seen clearly. Klein saw that the wall across him had become mottled due to the rapid weathering just now. Many of the murals had been destroyed and could no longer be restored to their original states. The only one that was more complete and could barely be seen clearly was a colorful mural at the top of the wall, which took up a small half of the dome. It described a towering mountain range, and on the highest mountain peak, there was a huge cross that was taller than the mountain. The cross was covered in layers of radiance, making it seem unusually holy. In front of it, a tall and domineering figure could be seen vaguely. The mountain range was like a pet that lay prostrate at its feet. This figure was surrounded by 2-winged, 4-winged, and 6-winged angels. They were holding bugles, playing harps, or playing flutes, looking pious and sprightly. At the foot of the mountain range, 2 12-winged angels were humbly walking towards the mountaintop, each holding a baby in their arms. The baby on the left had curly black hair, and the baby on the right had pale blonde hair. One of their eyes was black, the other golden. Elsewhere in the mountain range, there was a vague depiction of a giant with chains at its legs and a dragon that had its legs bound and never be able to land. Horamic first looked at the baby on the left, and his genial expression became increasingly serious. He said a word in a very low voice. "Amon." Then, he turned to look at the baby on the right, and after a few seconds of silence, he said another name. "Adam. Amon Adam." As Klein repeated the names, he felt that the fog that hung over the history of the 4th epoch and the 3rd epoch was growing thicker. He combined all the information he had learned and quickly made a guess. On the mountaintop, the figure in front of the glowing cross is surrounded by angels, with giants and dragons submitting to it. It's definitely a real god that's at sequence 0. Another being who likes to partially use the cross as a symbol is the true creator. It's said that Amon is the descendant of an ancient sun god, but the one at the top of the mountain doesn't seem like a pure sun god. Could it be that he is the Lord that created everything, the omnipotent and omniscient God that the City of Silver believes in? This is in accordance with the legends of the City of Silver. The awakening of the Creator who stripped the king of giants and the dragon of imagination and other ancient gods of their authorities. The so-called ancient sun god is actually the Lord that created everything as spoken about in the City of Silver? He may be in charge of the domains such as sun and time. In addition, the authorities of the giant king, Ormer, and the dragon of imagination, Enkwelt, has likely returned to him. This can no longer be completely contained within sequence 0. So, the original Amon was the descendant of the City of Silvers. Lord that created everything, the omnipotent and omniscient God, who inherited the beyonder characteristics of the time domain. This seems to slightly explain why he remained silent in the City of Silver's dungeon for decades. Apart from him, there's also another descendant of the Lord that created everything, the omnipotent and omniscient God, named Adam. What did Adam inherit in the beginning? Does he still have a descendant alive, and if so, where would he be? What's the relationship between the true Creator and that person? Is it simply an imitation by using the Creator's title and the symbol of the cross? Or is there some deeper connection between the two? Klein didn't let his doubts show too much. After all, the magic mirror, Rhodes, could be sizing him up. Horemheb stared at the mural for a while, then he suddenly took a few steps forward and pressed his extended palms against the wall. Without a sound, the majestic mural disintegrated, turning into pieces of stone fragments that landed on the ground. Even the color quickly evaporated, disappearing without a trace. The Church of the God of Steam and Machinery is consciously concealing the history of the third and fourth epochs. Are the other churches the same? Klein frowned and followed the Horemheb doll to the other side. After making a half circle, they discovered another thing. A stone door, which only had an outline, loomed in the corner. At this moment, the Horemheb doll's joints were constantly creaking, but this didn't stop him from quickly approaching the stone door and reaching out with his right hand to attempt to push. Above the stone door, there was a sudden burst of aqueous light that condensed into a scene that looked so real that it seemed possible to directly touch it. Dark blue waves were surging forward, and there was a dense black mist that looked like liquid. A craggy mountain protruded from the mist, continuously flowing with viscous liquids. Behind this mountain, the black mist seemed endless, with no end in sight. There was also no limit to its depth. The deeper one looked, the more placid it felt. It was as if once something fell in, it would fall forever. What is this place? Klein's expression didn't change as he muttered inwardly. Horemheb retracted his palms and watched as the scene gradually faded until it disappeared. He leaned his head back and sighed to himself while feeling perplexed. The abyss? Abyss? That's the source of all corruption. It's said that it's an abyss that can even corrupt a true god? Klein was amazed, but as a former clown, he regulated his expression and limbs to appear unperturbed. He immediately thought of something. Roselle, who was exploring the fog sea, had once deviated from his path, leaving behind a puzzling sentence. I saw the abyss. As Klein pondered about the layers of waves that were surging towards the black fog, he made a conjecture. There's an entrance to the abyss somewhere in the fog sea? Immediately after, he looked towards the stone door. He suspected that Amon, who lurked around the City of Silver, had employed a certain ritual. After finishing the tomb, he didn't depart from it normally. Instead, he used a special tunnel to head for the abyss. Thus, in the eyes of most people, he was already dead. As for whether the City of Silver or the forsaken land of God was located somewhere in the abyss, Klein couldn't be sure. After all, the history of this tomb was at least 1,500 years old, so Amon had plenty of time to use the abyss to go somewhere else. Would he still occasionally come back to siphon off time? If he finds out that someone has dug up his grave, the expression on his face would definitely be very marvelous. Klein rejoiced for a baffling reason. At this moment, the Horemheb doll held his left hand in his right palm and abruptly twisted it. With a creaking sound, his left hand was bent at the wrist, but there were no bones that pierced out of his skin, spewing out flesh and blood. There was a heavy, black metal tube inlaid in his left wrist. His entire left arm was a small caliber mystical cannon. To hide a mole of advanced technology, he truly is worthy of being from the machinery hive mind. However, the requirements and costs for such a thing are too high. Clearly, it could only be provided to specific personnel and not for military troops. Klein felt that today was an eye-opener for him, an opportunity to see another development path in the mysterious world. The only problem is that beyond our characteristics are conserved, artisans are limited, so many things cannot be mass-produced. The Hormic doll put his left wrist against the stone door. Inside his body, the sound of gears grinding against each other, as they revolved, emitted an intense spirituality radiance. A ray of light that was as bright as day appeared and disappeared. The stone door suddenly turned into pure powder, as if it had never existed. He destroyed the door? If blasphemer Amon encounters an emergency situation and attempts to return here, only to find the door gone, that would be fun. Klein almost laughed when he imagined that scene. This was the end of the Amon family's tomb exploration. The scene surrounding Klein quickly shrank and became the background. An illusory, ancient, and bizarre silver mirror appeared in midair. The black, eye-like gemstones on the mirror flickered. White words were quickly outlined in the mirror. Your loyal servant, Rhodes, has finished reporting and is ready to serve you at any time again. Klein was a bit wary and unaccustomed towards the fellow who appeared too enthusiastic. He nodded and said, Well done, you may leave first. Yes, the mighty existence above the spirit world. As soon as Rhodes produced that line of words, the scene around him shattered into pieces. After confirming that its power had left his dream, Klein thoughtfully said to himself, The mighty existence above the spirit world? It really has vaguely sensed the gray fog. Does this magic mirror with a wicked sense of humor really wish to rely on me, or does it have some other purpose? I have to watch carefully, otherwise, with it at the machinery hive mind, I don't want to be repeatedly blasted with cannon fire. Rounding up his thoughts, Klein began looking forward to the next day. After the machinery hive mind tidied up their spoils, they were likely to get him to choose an item.